So I'm not sleeping so great because it's like I wake up at 3 a.m. and my head is just spinning because this is a huge step. I have.
Friends, it's me, Mirab, and today on Starspill USA. We are delving into a revelation that could redefine everything fans have believed about the Brown family. For over a decade, audiences have followed the Browns' plural marriage saga. The smiles, the tears, the occasional heartbreak captured on camera, and the disputes that unfolded with astonishing visibility. Yet, the cameras, as intrusive as they were, never glimpsed the full extent of the power dynamics that rumbled silently behind closed doors. Until now. What has surfaced is a story of clandestine meetings, secret dossiers, and a carefully calculated strategy that may have forever altered the internal balance of the Brown household. Christine and Janelle, once viewed as steady pillars within the family's intricate hierarchy, are said to have conducted a secret meeting whose consequences, insiders claim, may have irrevocably affected Robyn Brown's standing. The meeting was far from casual gossip. It was a meticulously orchestrated effort to uncover truths about finances, influence, and legal positioning that had remained hidden for years. The venue, sources confirm, was deliberately chosen for its inconspicuousness, a quiet cafe nestled in a small, out-of-the-way Utah town. It was a place far removed from the prying eyes of cameras and networks that had profited immensely from broadcasting the Browns. Private struggles. Christine arrived first, her composure immaculate, carrying a folder brimming with financial records, contracts, receipts, and internal memos painstakingly collected over the years. She was followed by Janelle, equally prepared, her presence measured and precise. Each woman had arrived separately, ensuring that their meeting remained invisible to observers and unsuspecting family members. What transpired inside those walls, sources say, was nothing short of a revelation. Christine and Janelle poured over statements, cross-referencing transactions and analyzing every nuance of the family's accounts. They scrutinized previously overlooked memos from TLC, noting unusual transfers, undeclared bonuses, and anomalies that suggested preferential treatment towards Robyn for years. Robyn had been regarded as untouchable, a position secured through Quate Brown's unwavering loyalty and the financial advantages she enjoyed within the family structure. But that veneer, it seems, was far more fragile than anyone had imagined. As the meeting progressed, the gravity of their discoveries became apparent. A pattern emerged, one indicating that Robyn's lifestyle, long envied by observers and insiders alike, had been funded in part by resources that arguably belonged to the original wives. Christine, known for her meticulous approach to legal and financial matters, reportedly expressed shock. She recognized the immediate need for action, understanding that any hesitation might allow Robyn to conceal or redirect funds. Timing, she insisted, was paramount. Janelle, equally determined, agreed. Together, they began formulating a strategy that would protect their legal rights and expose the underlying manipulations that had allowed Robyn to ascend to her powerful position. It was not confrontation they sought initially. Rather, it was the construction of an unassailable record. Every line of the financial documents was interrogated, each discrepancy noted, each unusual transaction contextualized. By the end of their meeting, Christine and Janelle had a blueprint, unorganized, comprehensive account of financial irregularities and strategic steps that could challenge Robyn's dominion. Meanwhile, back at the family home, subtle shifts began to surface. Robyn, accustomed to near-total control over household and financial matters, sensed the first tremors of disruption. Calls between Christine and Janelle, once innocuous, now carried an undertone of secrecy. Questions regarding expenditures were posed casually, yet deliberately, during everyday interactions, testing boundaries and observing reactions. Robyn initially attempted to dismiss these signals as coincidences, relying on years of experience and careful management to maintain her facade of authority. But as inconsistencies mounted, the careful equilibrium she had nurtured began to crumble. Cody, long the architect of the family's internal and external image, was not immune to the unfolding tension. Robyn's subtle unease became visible in ways he could not ignore. Her usual calm and self-assured demeanor gave way to exasperation. Documents studied with furrowed brows, whispered mutterings over receipts and bank statements, an uncharacteristic pacing that betrayed her mounting anxiety. Cody's reaction, according to sources, was a mixture of shock and urgent protectiveness. The empire he had helped construct both publicly and privately seemed suddenly vulnerable. The dynamic between the couples shifted palpably. As Robyn's panic intensified, Cody attempted to intervene, initiating crisis strategy sessions and reviewing every transaction, every legal agreement, every bank record with painstaking care. Yet each effort to regain control, insiders say, paradoxically amplified the scrutiny, drawing attention to inconsistencies that Christine and Janelle had methodically cataloged. It became clear that their approach was deliberate, measured, and unyielding. Christine and Janelle were not merely reacting. They were orchestrating a series of moves that would expose discrepancies while remaining legally sound. The tension at home escalated. Robyn's vulnerability, once almost unimaginable, became increasingly apparent. According to observers, she was frequently found quietly reviewing documents late into the night, muttering numbers under her breath, her frustration evident in gestures and exclamations. Cody, recognizing both the threat and the fragility of the situation, oscillated between protective loyalty and desperate attempts to contain exposure. Yet, for all his vigilance, he remained several steps behind Christine and Janelle's carefully structured plan. At the cafe, the original wives continued their meticulous work. Every transaction, every financial note, and every legal document was examined with precision. They debated strategy, how to sequence revelations, anticipate defensive responses, and ensure that each piece of evidence could withstand scrutiny. Their purpose was not merely to implicate Robyn, but to construct an irrefutable narrative. Legal defensibility and strategic timing were paramount. By the conclusion of that pivotal week, the full weight of Christine and Janelle's efforts began to manifest. Robyn, for the first time in years, understood that her position was no longer invulnerable. Cody, too, recognized that the challenge extended beyond finances. It was about influence, perception, and authority within the family. The meticulously maintained hierarchy that had defined the Brown household for years faced unprecedented disruption. Observers recount that subtle interactions began signaling the changing power dynamics. A casual question during a family dinner, a quietly probing glance, or a minor adjustment in the household routine became indicators of the ongoing strategy. Robyn, ever vigilant, could sense the shifting undercurrents. Cody, while reacting with immediacy, remained uncertain how to restore the equilibrium. Christine and Janelle's strategy was precise: create incontrovertible facts, reveal contradictions, and allow legal processes to formalize and enforce accountability. Each action, each question, and each document collected served this larger goal. By leaving no stone unturned, they ensured that their approach was both methodical and unassailable. As tensions mounted, insiders describe a climate of silent anxiety within the Brown household. Every conversation, every glance, every small decision became a potential indicator of progress or exposure. The once unshakable Robyn experienced the first true challenge to her authority, and Cody's attempts to preserve order became increasingly fraught. Christine and Janelle, meanwhile, maintained a calm yet relentless course, moving strategically while remaining almost invisible in the family's daily operations. The clandestine meeting that began in a quiet, off-the-record cafe was now the fulcrum of change. Robyn's careful management of household dynamics, her perceived invulnerability, Cody's long-standing reliance on her loyalty, were all challenged in ways neither had anticipated. Each day brought new evidence of subtle shifts-altered routines, deliberate inquiries, and small but meaningful disruptions to the usual flow of family interactions. As the saga unfolded, insiders suggest that Robyn's initial shock gave way to anxiety, and eventually, a sense of precariousness that had never before characterized her behavior. Cody's responses, though swift, were reactive rather than proactive, and each defensive maneuver often inadvertently amplified the very vulnerabilities Christine and Janelle sought to document. The balance of power, meticulously maintained for years, was beginning to tilt in favor of the original wives. By the end of that week, the Brown household had entered a state of high tension. The previously unchallenged authority of Robyn, once a cornerstone of the family's internal hierarchy, now hung in the balance. Cody, though determined, faced the sobering reality that strategic maneuvers could no longer guarantee control. Christine and Janelle, methodical and precise, had set in motion a domino effect that promised to reshape the family's dynamics. And yet, amidst the unfolding drama, the key questions remained. Could Robyn reclaim her authority? Would Cody's intervention suffice to preserve the structure they had built? Or had Christine and Janelle already laid the groundwork for a transformation in which the balance of power would irrevocably shift? As the narrative progressed, it became clear that this was no ordinary family disagreement. It was a meticulously orchestrated challenge to an entrenched hierarchy, combining financial scrutiny, legal preparation, and psychological strategy. Every step Christine and Janelle took was deliberate, every move measured to ensure maximum impact. The power dynamics within the Brown family, once thought immutable, were being rewritten before the eyes of those closest to the situation, and eventually, the public. The drama, of course, extended beyond finances. The emotional stakes were equally high. Robyn, accustomed to near-total control, was confronted with the first cracks in her carefully constructed facade. Cody invested both emotionally and strategically, grappled with the dual imperatives of protecting Robyn and preserving his reputation. Christine and Janelle, methodical in their approach, demonstrated an unwavering focus on justice and precision, ensuring that every step was both ethical and effective. This unfolding scenario, sources insist, will have long-term repercussions. The clandestine meeting, once an obscure moment in a small Utah cafe, had sparked a chain reaction whose consequences reverberated through every facet of the Brown family: financial, emotional, and legal. Robyn's previously unassailable position, long maintained through loyalty, strategic advantage, and public perception, was now under scrutiny. Cody's protective measures, though earnest, were insufficient to halt the momentum set in motion by the original wives. Christine and Janelle's strategic brilliance lay in their subtlety. They avoided overt confrontation, instead building a narrative and accumulating evidence with methodical precision. The results were apparent in the small, almost imperceptible shifts that Robyn began to notice: carefully framed questions, adjustments in family routines, and deliberate timing in inquiries, all designed to expose vulnerabilities without alerting Robyn to the full extent of their plan. The tension in the Brown household reached unprecedented levels. Robyn, who had long been the axis around which family operations revolved, was now experiencing pressure of a type she had not anticipated. Cody, caught between loyalty and the urgent need to manage exposure, struggled to maintain control. Meanwhile, Christine and Janelle moved forward with quiet confidence, their strategic planning creating a foundation that could withstand both internal resistance and external scrutiny. By the time the week drew to a close, the cumulative effect of Christine and Janelle's efforts was undeniable. Robyn's dominance had been challenged, Cody's strategies revealed as reactive, and the internal balance of power within the family dramatically altered. Every interaction, from casual conversations to financial discussions, now carried the weight of strategic calculation. The Brown family, long a symbol of controlled appearances and managed narratives, was facing a transformative moment that insiders believe could redefine the household forever. The clandestine meeting in the quiet cafe and the subsequent strategic maneuvers had achieved more than mere exposure of financial discrepancies. They had illuminated the psychological and social structures underpinning the family, revealing vulnerabilities previously hidden beneath layers of loyalty, public perception, and unchallenged authority. Robyn, Cody, Christine, and Janelle found themselves caught in a delicate interplay of power, influence, and foresight, each move scrutinized, each decision potentially altering the trajectory of the family's future. As this saga continues to unfold, the public watches, riveted by the drama that has always defined the Browns but is now revealed in new and unprecedented detail. The story is no longer merely about family disagreements or financial disputes. It is about strategy, foresight, and the profound consequences that a single, well-planned meeting can unleash. Christine and Janelle's quiet brilliance, combined with the pressures now mounting on Robyn and Cody, sets the stage for revelations that will shake the family to its core. Every carefully documented transaction, every cross-referenced receipt, and every strategic inquiry contributes to a narrative that is as precise as it is inexorable. Robyn's previously untouchable position is now vulnerable, and Cody's protective instincts, while formidable, may not suffice to avert a new order that the original wives have meticulously orchestrated. Robyn's instincts screamed that something was awry, though she could not yet pinpoint the source of the mounting peril. The sisters-in-law, Christine and Janelle, were masters of subtlety, experts at exerting influence without ever appearing confrontational. They did not confront Robyn directly. Instead, they wove their strategy through minor maneuvers that would gradually unsettle her. A misplaced document here, a carefully framed question there, a discussion subtly guiding Robyn toward defensive positions. It was psychological chess at its finest, and as the days wore on, Robyn began to realize that she may already be several moves behind. Behind the closed doors of the Brown household, Cody attempted to soothe Robyn's growing tension, but his reassurances were insufficient. He had underestimated the meticulous planning of Christine and Janelle. Every document, every carefully arranged meeting, every note meticulously prepared by the sisters-in-law was designed to construct a scenario in which Robyn's errors could no longer be concealed or corrected. Cody's mounting anxiety only compounded Robyn's unease, leaving her vulnerable to the cascade of revelations that were to follow. By the week's end, Robyn's once uncheckable self-assurance had visibly waned. What had once been a position of unchallenged authority within the family was now under siege, undermined by doubt and subtle yet deliberate manipulation. She sensed that conflict was brewing, though she could not possibly grasp the full extent of the trap Christine and Janelle had so patiently laid. The clandestine cafe meeting, seemingly innocuous at the time, had been the opening move in a masterfully orchestrated campaign designed to expose Robyn's vulnerabilities and dismantle her control from the ground up. The first tangible effects of this strategy manifested during what appeared to be a routine family gathering. Cody had convened the family under the pretext of reviewing household finances and planning future schedules. But beneath the ordinary agenda lay carefully embedded triggers, remarks, and questions, all calculated to elicit reactions from Robyn. The sisters-in-law deployed their psychological tactics with precision. Christine casually referenced past financial decisions made by Robyn, framing them in a way that subtly implied irresponsibility. Across the room, Janelle interjected with pointed observations about timelines, compliance, and legal protocols, never overtly accusatory, but sufficient to highlight perceived lapses in Robyn's judgment. Robyn tried to mount a defense, but the narrative had already been shaped against her. Every explanation she offered was anticipated, countered by meticulously gathered documentation that refuted her arguments before she could even finish speaking. Cody, uncertain and intimidated, struggled to intervene. His usual authority and calm were powerless against the combined, calculated pressure exerted by Christine and Janelle. By the time the meeting concluded, the atmosphere in the household had shifted irrevocably. Robyn felt stripped bare, exposed, and increasingly isolated. Even the children seemed to sense the tension, their usual exuberance muted. It was in this moment that Robyn truly grasped the significance of the clandestine meeting. She had never been privy to its repercussions were set to redefine her role in the family entirely. Meanwhile, Christine and Janelle remained unruffled, their smiles and gracious demeanor masking the potency of their maneuver. To them, this was merely the beginning, a cunningly executed initial move that would gradually suffocate Robyn's power and authority. In the days that followed, Robyn found herself under relentless scrutiny. Minor missteps were amplified, financial inconsistencies meticulously analyzed, and even personal decisions dissected for flaws. Psychological leverage was steadily applied, and Robyn became acutely aware that she was being methodically cornered. Cody, usually a stabilizing presence, was now an unwitting accomplice to the sisters' strategy. His attempts at protection were carefully manipulated to underscore Robyn's vulnerabilities. Each defensive action she attempted was countered. Each argument anticipated, and every response she offered quietly recorded for eventual legal or strategic use. Robyn had weathered challenges before, but this was unlike anything she had faced. She was contending with a carefully calibrated campaign. Months in preparation, executed with precision by two women who understood exactly which buttons to press. Tension thickened in the household, each day bringing new challenges and mounting pressure. The looming weeks promised revelations that would push Robyn to her limits, forcing her to defend not only her authority, but her reputation and, ultimately, her place within the family. It was not long before the ripples from the clandestine meeting reached the legal domain. Robyn, who had always felt secure in her financial oversight, suddenly found herself facing inquiries she had not anticipated. Casual suggestions and subtle prompts from Christine and Janelle became formal questions. Observations once dismissed as family chatter now carried legal weight. The sisters had consulted legal experts and ensured that every discovery was supported by irrefutable documentation. Every expense, every property transaction, every financial decision she had sanctioned was scrutinized. What had once been routine family matters were now transformed into a legal and strategic battlefield. Robyn perceived the storm approaching but could not yet gauge its magnitude. Cody, torn between loyalty and growing uncertainty, attempted to shield her. Yet the sisters' plan was impermeable. They understood the levers they needed to manipulate financial, emotional, procedural land each time Robyn tried to regain control. She inadvertently reinforced the impression of mismanagement. Christine and Janelle maintained a careful restraint, never provoking a direct confrontation prematurely. Instead, they allowed Robyn to exhaust herself with futile defenses, quietly recording each misstep and ensuring that the evidence was comprehensive and admissible for future legal proceedings. With each passing day, Robyn's confidence eroded further. Minor errors, once inconsequential, were now magnified. While Cody's hesitant interventions, small signs of doubt served only to strengthen the sisters' narrative. Even trivial family disagreements were reframed as indicators of Robyn's misjudgment. By the end of the week, the reality had set in. She was under pressure from all sides, both familial and legal, and there was no clear path to reclaiming her former authority. Christine and Janelle had transformed a routine meeting into a strategic campaign that isolated Robyn, undermined her credibility, and placed her perpetually on the defensive. Rumors of financial irregularities began to circulate beyond the household. Family, friends, social media, and even public commentary began speculating on Robyn's decisions. Christine and Janelle had anticipated this amplification. They understood that public scrutiny would compound the pressure and erode Robyn's position further. Robyn now felt the weight of countless eyes upon her. Every casual remark, every minor misstep was dissected as evidence of incompetence or impropriety. Cody, once her emotional anchor, was now caught between allegiance and doubt. Even minor hesitations or questioning glances from him lent credibility to the sisters' narrative. Christine and Janelle's campaign was relentless yet methodical. No accusation was overt. Every document, every question, every implication functioned as a domino, quietly chipping away at Robyn's control. Her public standing began to falter. Allies wavered, unsure where loyalty truly lay. Even Cody's faith in her wavered under the weight of undeniable evidence and the meticulous execution of the sisters' plan. Robyn's decisions, once unquestioned, were now under intense scrutiny. She began to second-guess even mundane actions, acutely aware that each move was being assessed, recorded, and interpreted as evidence against her. The sisters' strategy had succeeded beyond measure. Robyn's challenges were no longer confined to internal family strife. They had escalated into a full-blown reputational crisis. Cody's reactions, hesitations, unspoken doubts, and subtle signs of uncertainty further undermined her confidence. Robyn came to realize that she was contending with an adversary who had not only anticipated her responses, but had strategically prepared for every conceivable contingency. The pieces were falling into place. She now had to navigate a fractured household, a public increasingly attentive to the unfolding drama, and a husband whose faith in her was quietly eroding. Christine and Janelle had accomplished far more than convening a single meeting. They had initiated a chain reaction capable of reshaping Robyn's life entirely. Legal experts were engaged, every receipt and transaction verified, and a paper trail meticulously documented. Robyn, unaware of the scale of their preparation, continued her routines, believing she had time to respond. Meanwhile, Cody's concern grew. He interrogated minor expenses, requested explanations for routine activities, and proposed procedures previously unnecessary designed to probe, assess, and stabilize a situation now spiraling beyond his control. The Brown household had transformed into a theater of silent strategy and escalating tension. Robyn was acutely aware that every choice she made, every action she took, could be scrutinized and leveraged against her. Christine and Janelle's plan, executed with quiet precision, was tightening around her with inexorable force. The stage was set, the pieces in motion, and the unfolding drama promised to redefine the family hierarchy in ways Robyn had never anticipated. The subtle cues had become unmistakable. Christine and Janelle's plan was no longer a quiet strategy, had crossed the threshold into tangible legal action. Every glance, every carefully phrased remark, every document left subtly on Cody's desk spoke volumes. The sisters understood that timing was critical. They were not seeking immediate confrontation. Their goal was far more insidious: to construct an unassailable case that would leave Robyn with almost no room to maneuver. Each meeting, each shared document, every pointed yet polite question to Cody was a calculated move. Pieces of a greater puzzle designed to isolate Robyn completely. Then came the formal warning letters. To Robyn, they appeared trivial, almost perfunctory bureaucratic nudges masquerading as routine procedure. Yet, behind the scenes, Christine and Janelle had already mobilized legal experts, accountants, and family advisors who would meticulously record every misstep, every inconsistency. Their meticulous preparation was almost surgical in its precision. Robyn, for the first time, felt the solidity of her world begin to tremble. The home that had once been her sanctuary now resembled a maze of scrutiny, every step fraught with potential consequences. Cody's quiet unease only exacerbated the tension, forming a triangle of anxiety with his wives. Robyn, increasingly isolated from her sisters-in-law and her husband, confronted a problem far larger than she had ever anticipated. The first fissures in Robyn's tightly controlled composure began to show. The sisters' plan was working flawlessly, casting legal shadows that were growing darker by the day. Every indirect probe, every tactfully phrased missive, every hesitant glance from Cody confirmed to her that the walls were closing in. She was no longer dealing with mere familial discord. This was a strategic, methodical assault that had escalated into the legal realm. Each subtle interaction now carried weight. Each misstep, a potential trap. Late one night, Robyn sat alone in the living room, poring over stacks of papers she had once dismissed as mundane. Her hands trembled slightly as she cross-checked figures and noted discrepancies she had previously overlooked. It dawned on her how meticulously Christine and Janelle had constructed their case. Every gathering, every exchange of information, every minor query had been part of a grander scheme designed to ensnare her. Meanwhile, the sisters were cool, composed, and deliberate. They met again in secret, analyzing Robyn's reactions and predicting her next moves. Their lawyer, a seasoned strategist well-versed in the dissection of complex family disputes, advised patience. Allow Robyn to act, make mistakes, and ensure that each misstep would be irrevocable. Every move she made was anticipated. every choice calculated to keep the sisters a step ahead. Cody, caught between the mounting pressures of his wives, struggled to mediate. He inquired, he excused, he attempted reassurance, but the sisters' influence crept inexorably around him. His hesitation, his wavering, only reinforced Robyn's growing realization. Where she was trapped in a battlefield she could neither perceive fully nor navigate with confidence. Each conversation, every decision became a potential weapon against her. The clandestine meetings, the covert strategies, and the legal groundwork laid by Christine and Janelle were no longer abstract threats. They were immediate, inescapable, and formidable. Panic began to set in. Robyn, for the first time, understood the full consequences of underestimating Christine and Janelle. Their secret meeting had set in motion a series of events that could no longer be controlled. The future she had once assumed secure now dangled precariously before her. Sitting amid documents, letters, and legal notices, her mind raced. The clock was ticking, the sisters' plan was in motion, and each step she took was being monitored, analyzed, and anticipated. The battle for her future had officially begun. The initial legal salvo hit swiftly. Robyn, once confident in her control over the family's finances, found herself confronted with meticulously gathered evidence of past transactions, disputed property allocations, and inconsistencies she had never deemed significant. The sisters had arranged consultations with their lawyer, a veteran of dismantling convoluted family disputes, transforming every detail Robyn had taken for granted into potential liabilities. Her position was no longer defensible. The walls of her authority, dependent upon Cody's support and her assumed loyalty, were crumbling. Desperate, Robyn attempted to sway Cody to her side. She pleaded, explained, even threatened, hoping he would intervene on her behalf. But Christine and Janelle had predicted every move. Each action she took to regain control was met with counter-evidence, preemptive legal measures, or careful documentation. Cody, torn between duty and reality, grew increasingly powerless, unable to shield Robyn from the unfolding storm. Her world, once predictable and secure, disintegrated with every phone call, every legal notice, and every strategic maneuver orchestrated by the sisters. Robyn's power was being stripped away layer by layer. It was no longer about money or possessions. It was about influence, control, and credibility. Christine and Janelle had created a campaign that forced Robyn to respond rather than act. Every step she took anticipated and countered. By the end of the week, the truth hit her. Christine and Janelle had not merely prepared, they had anticipated every conceivable move. Her previously untouchable position now hung by a thread, teetering on the brink of complete exposure. The climax arrived in the courtroom. Cameras, journalists, and lawyers transformed what had been a private family dispute into a public spectacle. Robyn entered with a composed facade, but panic gnawed at her from within. Every movement, every glance, every word was under scrutiny. Christine and Janelle followed shortly after, their demeanor calm, almost unnervingly so. A silent acknowledgement passed between them. Their plan was finally in motion. As the hearing commenced, evidence was presented with precision. Emails, bank statements, and testimonies from individuals Robyn had considered allies were deployed strategically to expose contradictions, mismanagement, and lapses in judgment. Each revelation, methodically delivered, compounded the pressure on Robyn. The sisters framed her actions not merely as administrative errors, but as manipulative control, painting a narrative of incompetence and overreach that Robyn had never anticipated. Cody's interventions, filmed and recorded, revealed his struggle. Attempts to defend Robyn faltered under the weight of the sisters' airtight case. Her efforts to regain control crumbled, affirming the narrative carefully constructed by Christine and Janelle. By the close of the session, it was apparent to all present. Robyn was no longer in command. Secrets long hidden had been exposed, and the courtroom had become the stage upon which her authority was dismantled. The aftermath was immediate. Media outlets were awash with headlines detailing Robyn's alleged mismanagement. Social media buzzed with speculation and critique, amplifying her public humiliation. Even family gatherings became fraught. Invitations withheld, authority questioned. And Cody's attempts at support increasingly complicated by the growing weight of evidence. Every interaction served as a reminder of the quiet, relentless power wielded by Christine and Janelle. Their clandestine meetings, long underestimated, had transformed them into masterful strategists capable of reshaping family dynamics and public perception alike. In the end, Robyn faced the stark reality of diminished influence. Forced to navigate the fallout of a meticulously orchestrated plan executed by her sister's law, Christine and Janelle through patience, preparation, and precision had demonstrated that strategy and solidarity could overturn even the most entrenched power. Their silent victory spoke not only of legal triumph, but of the power of intellect, foresight, and unwavering resolve. One clandestine meeting, one deliberate choice, had irrevocably altered the fates of all involved, leaving Robyn to reckon with a future defined by exposure, accountability, and the formidable presence of two women who refused to be ignored. The chapter closed on Robyn's fall and the quiet, undeniable triumph of Christine and Janelle's story of calculated patience, intellectual acuity, and the subtle yet overwhelming force of unseen power finally revealed.